Hello, this is Daniel Crawford, and this is a special edition of the Inequality Chronicles. I'm going to do this in a special way only because, well, I'm still in the midst of trying to fix my DVD recorder, and I figured out that was the problem. Anyways, let's get right down to business here. Let me get started on this on the clock to give myself, I'm going to only give myself 10 minutes tonight because I just want to make a few comments for this special edition of the Inequality Chronicles. Alright, there it is. I'm going to be doing a few posts about the conventions over the next couple weeks. So let me start off tonight with what happened at the first night of the Republican nominating convention. One thing that I noticed was not discussed in at least all the major high-profile speeches was I heard nothing discussing the plight of most Americans, of working people in this country or even in the world. I mean, Melania Trump, I hope I'm pronouncing her name appropriately, she said something to the effect of if she becomes First Lady, she'd like to dedicate herself to helping the less fortunate, but that was pretty much it that I heard. For the most part, as has been the case, seemingly, with the Republican Party, at least ever since the 2004 convention, all you've really heard about, for the most part, is terrorism, terrorism, terrorism. And about how, well, and especially has been the case since 2012, you've heard about how much of an abysmal failure Obama is, this, and this. Of course, it's funny how the party which ridiculed Obama in 2008 of supposedly campaigning against Bush is, and then of course lambasting him because, as they said, you're not running against Bush, you're running against McCain. Now that same party is hosting a convention wherein they are trying to campaign against Obama and make Clinton out to be the next Obama. Now, regardless of who you support on the Democratic side or if you support anyone on the Democratic side, the fact is that this party, the Republican Party, will do anything to win. Their main goal is power, to attain power and retain it. And it drives them nuts that they've been out of power for 8 years. And it is very likely that they will be out of power for at least 12 years. It's not impossible that they will win this year, but let's put it this way. May the supernatural forces have mercy upon us if Donald Trump does win and become the next president. I'm not saying I'm a shill for Hillary whatsoever, and anyone who follows me regularly on social media or even in my weblog, they will know that I am not a Hillary fan whatsoever. But one thing is certain, and I've said this many times on Facebook and throughout, there is a huge difference between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, in that, at least the most important difference, is that Hillary Clinton, regardless of her shortfalls, represents a continuation of a system that has failed us, utterly, has failed to address the many woes which are directly impacting working people in this country. And it is a system which has helped to create and exacerbate the issues of inequality, both economically and politically speaking. When it comes to Mr. Trump, he and everything he represents is a path which is unprecedented in American history. We've come close to this type of darkness in our politics before, but we've never quite gone down that rabbit hole. So, a big concern that I have with the Donald Trump presidency as opposed to a Hillary Clinton presidency is that the American people, our society, even this planet, can begrudgingly survive 4 to 8 years of Hillary Clinton. Whether or not I or you or anyone else out there listening votes for her is a different issue, but I believe strongly that we can survive that. A Donald Trump presidency with the fascism that he represents and his outright rejection of climate science, which is imperative for us to acknowledge and embrace and address, as well as, the bigotry. I mean, just say it bluntly. All these things that he incites within us could very well represent such a deviation from where we've gone before, down a dark and dangerous path that we may never recover from it. I know, sounds like hyperbole, but the reality is that it is too risky for us to try out a Trump presidency, at least willfully. That's why it is incumbent upon the Democratic Party to do what is in the best interest of all the American people and pick the best possible candidate to help us avert a Trump presidency. Now, back to the current state of affairs with the Republican Party and their nominating convention. Once again, I heard a lot of rhetoric about how great Trump is, and them constantly saying they're going to make America safe again and make America great again. They never really quite get into details. I never heard anything about how they were going to make America safe again, other than we're going to kill all the terrorists and we're going to build a wall. Well, talking about one of the last people who actually spoke after the prospective First Lady, he droned on and on and on about almost nothing. And he used to apparently work for President Obama at one point. He's Lieutenant General. Can't remember his name, to be honest, but he kept saying that when you go to war, the goal is to win. It's not to. We more or less said, it's the goal wasn't to care about what bathroom you enter or what whether or not you're using the right words. He was kind of lashing out against political correctness. But he said, the goal is to win. I just have to ask, and I pose this question to anyone out there listening. When it comes to a so-called war on terror, what is the end game? How do you win it? Is there a way to win? This is one of the challenges which has vexed neocons and their supporters since the Bush regime took the helm and brought us down this path to begin with back in 2001. How do you win a so-called war on terror? Can you win a war on terror? The prudent mind would tell you no, you cannot. And if anything, you cannot extricate a fight against terrorism from the plight of working people throughout the planet. I know it sounds like a kumbaya type philosophy, and perhaps it is a utopian type mindset, but the reality is that if people are desperate, if they have no hope, what option do they have then to choose the path of destruction, of terrorism, if you will? It's easy to say kill them all, but if you literally mean that, you're talking about genocide. And is that the type of society, the type of vision for the world that we want to embrace? Is genocide? We need to inspire people, give them hope, give them reasons not to want to turn towards, the ideology, if you will, of ISIS or, radical Islamic terror, as they keep saying. I'm not personally afraid to say that. I do believe that every religious sect in the world has a radical element, and perhaps right now, because of the times that we live in, maybe the most radicalized religion out there is Islam, and that is something that I have to accept. It's not something as many progressives out there are comfortable saying, but it is true. But it doesn't mean that even a majority of Muslims embrace this. Are they tolerant of it? I don't know. That's up to them to deal with. But the truth of the matter is that we are not going to deal with radical Islam with bombs. All that does is fan the flames. It creates more radical Islamists, if you will. The way to defeat this is to undercut them. And we undercut them by addressing inequality in this country and elsewhere. And then, and only then, can we begin to bridge the gaps between us and create some form of unity, which is the only way to truly defeat this in the end. So, I've apparently defeated my time. I'm going to just let this thing run out. And I guess all I can say is thank you for listening. Hopefully within the next few weeks I will have video back up again of these editions here. So thank you. Have a good night. And possibly expect another edition after the second night of the Republican Convention. Good night.